You're listening to episode 22 of the Air Hug Community Podcast. Hi, I'm Judy Arizosa and the host here on the Air Hug Community. I started the Air Hug Community to bring you stories from guests and myself on topics that speak to mothers and others. We cover it all from relationships to personal development to family and human connection. The Air Hug Community is a connected community, and we stand by the creed that improving the lives of others will ultimately boomerang back to you in ways that you don't expect. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Air Hug Community Podcast. Today, this is so funny because now today, both of us are in our closet, our guest and myself. A couple of weeks ago, I recorded from the closet too. Anyways, today we have a guest on a topic that I've been promising you that we would talk about, and it's finance and finance specifically for women. So our guest today is CPA Melissa Houston, and she is from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And Melissa, I'm just going to say, take it from here. Tell us who you are and how you got to where you are, because I know there's a convoluted story involved.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here today. Thank you very much for the invite.
My pleasure.
So, as you said, my name is Melissa Houston. I am from Ottawa, but I do work with everybody around Canada and the US. And what I do is I'm known as being a business finance coach. So I generally coach women who are either struggling with their business finances or their personal finances or both. So I don't know if you want me to jump right into the story, but it's a bit of a long one and it's a little confusing, but I am a CPA, which means I'm a chartered professional accountant. And I've worked in the industry for over 20 years. Now, I'm very educated with all things finance, including personal finance as well. And part of my story is that I really wanted to get out of the corporate world and start my own business. And I would say the feelings really started to get to me around 10 years ago. And you know, when you get that feeling in your gut that you have to do something and it would make you really happy, but for whatever reason, you just push it down and you ignore it and you tell yourself lies like you can't do it or you tried before and you failed or whatever. So I had this really deep feeling that I knew what I wanted to do was just to get out there and help women with their finances. I had all this education, all this experience, and I knew people needed help, but I ignored it. And in the process of ignoring it, I ended up getting into my own financial mess. And what happened is I ended up getting myself into, I blew $100,000 worth of credit. And so, essentially that is debt. And I hid about 40% of that from my husband. So there's a very long, convoluted story there, and I understand what it's like to get yourself into debt, be in debt, lie to your husband about the debt, lie to everybody about the debt, and come out from that, come clean, and pay off the debt. So what I essentially did was after at the time I knew I was doing it, I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop myself. So once I came clean at the time, it took me about 1.5 years, but I went on this big journey of soul searching, trying to figure out why I did that. And I ended up working with a coach myself who helped me peel back the layers. And oddly enough, it was because I was suppressing my desire to start my own business.
Who'd have thought? Wow.
It was kind of full circle, eh? So,
Wait, can I just interrupt you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it when Canadian people say "eh."
Oh.
Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
I know, I do that all the time when I'm talking to people. I'm like, I'm Canadian, eh? I don't mean to. It's such a habit.
I love it.
Okay, so I was working with my coach, and as we peeled back the layers and I realized that I really wanted to go into business for myself, we started dealing with the fear that came around that, and essentially, the feelings that I try to stifle. And, you know, they came to the surface, and I worked through the fear, and it didn't take me long to be 100% committed to putting myself out there and starting this business. So I have been in business since January 2020, and I started just before the pandemic hit. So it was
Ooh,
great timing, but it's been a lot of fun.
incredible. Now, that's a whole other story about starting a business in a pandemic.
Yeah.
But I'm so interested to know that in just listening, you know, you actually, this was your numbing technique, no?
It was very much my numbing technique. It was overspending and overeating. And what I would do is I would be really bored with my work, with what I was doing at work. I'd come home and I'd just be, you know, drained of all the energy that it took to keep up that facade all day.
Mm.
And I would just mindlessly scroll the internet and start shopping, and I would get excited about the little things that I could buy. And it was like I'd buy some clothes, I'd buy some, you know, home decor. I convinced my husband. This is where my husband stepped in, and he knew, like, we, you know, we got a swimming pool in the backyard, so of course that is a huge expense.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really need it, but I convinced him that it would make our lives so much better. You know, we redid the backyard. You know, I was spending and didn't stop until the credit ran out.
Wow. So, wow, that gives you a lot to go on. And then, which is so odd because this is what you're an expert in and you started this business. So tell me about, how do you deal with women? And so the people that come to you, you know, women in business or women with personal finance concerns, do you start by sharing your story?
Yeah, I'm very open about sharing my story because, first of all, you know, it is what it is, and I am who I am, and I'm not going to hide behind that. And it also helps people to understand that I've been there and I don't judge.
Mhm.
So when people come to me, they've usually heard my story at some point, you know, wherever I've shared it. I've shared it on large publications. I've had my story published. I've shared it on podcasts. I've shared it in webinars. So, I mean, it is out there.
Mhm.
And usually what I hear from women is like, they're like, oh, you know, I'm so grateful you shared that because, like, I feel stupid, or I feel embarrassed or shame, or whatever the issue is. And the thing is, there's so many money experts out there that will tell you exactly what you need to know. So they can tell you how to save your money, where to invest your money, you know, how much to invest, you know, yada, yada, whatever. They tell you everything, but they never talk about the feelings that go along with the money, because money is the most emotionally charged topic out there. I think it's more so than sex, politics, and church. So,
Whoa.
you know, and a lot of people just don't talk about money. And if they do, it's more of a facade. It's like, you know, showing off, keeping up with the Joneses or whatever it is, but nobody airs their dirty laundry about how much they're in debt. So it's embarrassing. There's a lot of shame tied to it. And don't think for a minute I'm not embarrassed, because I am embarrassed. I'm still embarrassed, but I also still struggle with it every day. I mean, I have what you call the shiny object syndrome. You know, as soon as I see something nice and sparkly that I want, I have to talk myself, you know, like review my behavioral pattern and say, okay, why do you want this? Do you really need this? What triggered this feeling? Because usually what happens is, if you're an emotional spender, you've been triggered by something that makes you want to have a feeling go away. And the way you would deal with that feeling is by using whatever vice you use to suppress it. Like, some people, you know, they exercise. Some people eat, drink, you know, smoke, whatever the issue is, or the vice is. That's what you use to deal with things that you don't necessarily want to deal with.
That's so interesting because I never considered a spending habit to fall into that category of numbing and self-soothing, but I can totally see how that does fit in.
Absolutely. And it's so easy to get carried away with it. I mean, I'm a pure example of that. You know,
So,
it made me feel good for a bit, and then the packages would arrive. I'd get a little 10-minute jolt of excitement, and then it would be okay, whatever.
yeah, was it almost like that dopamine hit, like you would have to do more and more? It reminds me,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. And no, you bring up a good point. And that's probably how we ended up with a swimming pool in our backyard, because it's like this idea that I wanted in my head that my life was going to like be, look picture perfect. And I would have like all the latest and greatest because, I felt like, we work hard, we make good money. So why shouldn't we enjoy it? And it's not to say that, we weren't being responsible before, because we were. My husband and I were very responsible. We had a plan. We stuck to the plan, but I ended up getting derailed from that plan.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I knew better, and I hid it from him because I knew better. And of course, he was super disappointed in me. Like, I will never forget the look on his face when I had to come clean with him. He was extremely disappointed. And that's sort of my why that I always hang on to keep myself from overspending again. But it's true. Like, you spend and you spend and you spend, and it's like you want more and you spend more and you want more and you spend more. So that's how it ended up blowing up to such a huge number.
So it never really satisfied you other than maybe in the moment when you were maybe pressing buy?
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even when the swimming pool was installed, I mean, it was great, but I remember sitting there thinking, oh, I thought I'd feel differently. It's awful to say, but it's so true. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the swimming pool. It's fantastic to have it. Like, I enjoy it. But for the reason that we initially got it installed, it didn't satisfy that feeling I was trying to get rid of.
It was just a numbing mechanism.
Yeah. The commotion of the whole, it was a, what do you say? Like a distraction. Mm-hmm. Like when we started planning and then had the people come in and we had the plans and then the digging and then the this and the that. And that was all very distracting. And at the end, when it was all done and we're all sitting by the pool and you have a moment to reflect and you feel that, oh my God, that wasn't what I was missing. That moment.
Yeah.
That's priceless.
That's when you know. Wow.
Yeah, that's when you know.
So going forward, when you help women, so you work with business, so women entrepreneurs and also personal finance. So let's talk about both. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, we can talk about business quickly and then we'll focus on the personal finance. So for the business finance, I typically help entrepreneurs who need help managing their business finances. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. I go in and I help them plan and, get everything on track into a good system. For the personal finance, I have a 7-step framework approach where I help women, any woman, whether you're employed, you're a professional woman, self-employed, whatever the case may be, every woman is welcome. And it's a membership group and it has a course. So it's a 7-step program, the online course part of it, and there's 7 modules. There's a lot of learning in each step. Like the first step, you learn how to create a budget. The second step, you learn how to repay debt, and you come up with your debt repayment plan and stuff. And then, so it goes through all these steps all the way to the end where you're getting into retirement. So essentially, it covers all the life stages of your financial plan, because finance is very much like diet and exercise, where you can't just do it once and set it and forget it. You have to be consistent, show up every day and do the work. So, your finances are going to evolve over time, but they're still going to need your attention. So that's what we focus on. And then every month we have a Q&A session. The group comes on a Zoom call. And we talk about anything that is bothering us, any challenges that we face, if there's any specific questions, basically anything. And then we have a Facebook community where, throughout the time, people can post anything they need help with or support with, whatever. But it really is
questions.
Yeah, exactly. It's a community of women who are working towards the same goals, and we're all here to support each other.
That is amazing. I think I've actually never heard of anyone who does this. And so I was quite interested when we were introduced to each other by a mutual friend. And it's amazing because I often will use the analogy of investing in one's health is like financial investing. And you didn't know that. I said that. And it's interesting that you use the same analogy, vice versa.
Exactly. And it's so important for us to invest in these things, such as health and personal finance. First of all, with personal finance, the payoff is you get to save a lot of money while you're getting yourself out of debt and into the framework of getting your money working for you. So right there, your return on investment is going to skyrocket. Like the return you can get on that is priceless. And then for your fitness and your health, I mean, you invest in that and you're gonna get a huge return on that as well, because you're not going to have the medical bills, you're not going to have the health issues, you're not going to have, like, it's just, there's so many benefits to investing in yourself. And I find that so many people, and women in particular, who hesitate to do that because we are so used to putting others before ourselves that we tend not to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It's the whole put your oxygen mask on before helping others,
Exactly.
and I know we've
Yes.
heard that a million times, but it's still relevant.
Exactly.
So, and the other thing is you talked, or maybe I used that word, but no, I think you did. You talked about either burying or numbing your emotions with spending, which is so much like what people do with, I totally didn't think we'd go in this direction, but it's very similar to eating disorders. It's
Absolutely.
numbing some deep kind of feeling. And wow,
And that's how I ended up making the connection, because I always thought, oh, I'm sorry, my dogs.
I love dogs. It's okay.
That was the connection that I made, where I was like, okay, so I knew I was overweight and I thought that everything was tied to me being overweight. And what happened was I had this spinning instructor who decided to take a coaching program. At the time, I didn't know she was in a coaching program, but she offered me this health and wellness program for free if I would be like a guinea pig, right? And I had been searching high and low for health and wellness and some sort of miracle solution to get me out of my rut, whatever was going on. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'm on board. But in my head, I'm thinking, oh, great, just another program that's going to fail me, right?
Oh,
And while I was being coached, like when I started the program, first of all, like I wasn't expecting the coaching. And when it started being a coaching program, I was very surprised. But like, I think within the first or second session, I quickly realized that this really wasn't about my eating, because I knew there were deeper issues. There were deeper issues as to why I was eating and spending. And I knew my spending was an issue too,
mm-hmm.
but I didn't know why, because I knew I knew everything that I should have done, and I knew everything that I was doing was wrong, but I didn't know why I was doing it. And that was what I was not. Does that make sense to you?
It makes 100% sense to me, because if you think about it, and again, I'm going to use the analogy with living well, because most women that I talk to today, and over the last 11 years of working with women, know better. You can ask them nutrition questions. I'm sure you know so much about it, and so the analogy is the same with finance. You knew all about finance. Just because we know better doesn't mean we do better. And
Exactly.
so it's, what is the root of this? Like,
Yeah.
why do we make these choices? It is a void.
It is absolutely a void. And I'm going to tell you what happened when I started pursuing my dream. So when I made that commitment to myself, because nobody else cared if I opened a business or not, this was to me. I
Mm-hmm.
was like 100% in. I remember that session because I was talking with my coach and I was talking about the fear. What held me back was, putting myself out there. What if I succeed? What if I fail? And she walked me through this exercise, and she made me realize that life wasn't really going to be a whole lot different if I succeeded or failed. It was just going to be, it was what it was, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't lose my house. I wouldn't lose my husband. Like, I would just put myself out there, try. And if I didn't succeed, that would be life. Or if I didn't succeed, I'd just try a different way. But I remember at that point when I really understood what she was trying to tell me, I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm 100% in. And then I just went in motion. and I started building the business. And, like in December, I was actually a year ago now, I was building my website and stuff. And then in January, I went live. I put myself out there. I mean, I was scared to death still, but I was like, okay, I'm committed. I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And as I started doing what I truly love, and I do truly love what I'm doing, I feel so energized. I feel like such a happier person. I feel like I'm comfortable in my skin. I know what I should be doing. I'm doing it. So that's the business aspect of it. I've naturally lost 20 pounds because I'm not eating and stifling my feelings as much as I used to. I definitely need to move more, but because I tend to be a workaholic, I mean, not all my issues have been resolved here.
Hey, we're all a work in progress, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm focusing on the business, but now things are getting, to a place that I'm liking it. So I'm like, okay, the next step is bringing in the exercise, bringing in the stuff that I need to do. But it's like, it's not something that I have to do. It's something that I want to do because I enjoy my life.
It sounds to me like you've been called to do this and you fought it.
I feel very much like I love helping women. I love doing what I'm doing. And in my position, it's unique because I really get to help people in all different areas of life, and it feels good to me. I used to actually a little bit of not a secret, but I used to be a social worker.
Oh.
So becoming an accountant was kind of an odd story, but I initially started off in social work, but I realized that if I wanted to get married and have kids, it was not going to be the profession that was going to help me give to my family, because you spend so much time giving in social work. I was very concerned that I would be burned out and wouldn't have the attention for my family. So coming from the background that I came from growing up, that was very important to me, to be able to be there for my family. Even though they didn't exist at the time, that was my focus. So I decided, well, I'll go into business because I don't know what else to do. So I went through the whole, CPA program, and I never really loved it, but I learned a lot of really fabulous skills. Mm-hmm. So then I realized I can take my skills, I can take my social work, I can combine them, and I can help people. So financial literacy is such a skill that's missing in North America. And I thought, I can teach women. I can do this because I'm not that stuffy CPA accountant type of person who's going to look down on people, because I've been there, I've done it. Mm-hmm. And it's my passion to help people. So why not teach them a skill that's desperately needed?
Oh my gosh, that is amazing, because you have really come to terms with the messages really that you've been sent from the universe, right? I mean, you're meant to help people. It's just a different way, social work versus finance. It was just, you were presented a different path.
Exactly. And it just really brings, it sounds so cheesy. I always say this, I know I sound cheesy, but it's coming from the heart, where I feel like if I can help someone, it just makes me feel so good. And if you feel good about the work you're doing, then you love doing it.
Yeah. And then it's going to show, Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think that sounds cheesy at all, because that's what I say. I talk a lot about, my whole business is trying to improve the lives of others. And so the why never changes, the how changes. And I actually just talked about this in a previous episode with a friend of mine, talking about, and what episode is that? It's Natalie Sinisgali. I think it's just one or two episodes back from this one. Anyway, I'll put it in the show notes. So, or you can look for it. Anyways, it's, we each have a why of what we're meant to be doing. And we can't ignore the why, but we have to be able to pivot with the how. So it sounds to me like with social work, you were not far off on the why, but it wasn't really working for you. You needed a different how.
Exactly. And if I knew then what I know now, it would have made my life a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't we all say
20? Yeah. Hindsight is 2020.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I can definitely identify with that. This is really exciting. I think a 7-step budget. Wow. Did I get
Well,
that right?
no, it's not a 7-step budget. It's a
Sorry.
7-step process. So
Oh, sorry.
yes. So what it does is it teaches you first, the first step is to create your budget and follow it. And the key is to follow that budget, because everybody can create a budget, but if you're not following it, it's not going to do anything good for you. So, and by following, I teach them how to monitor it each month. So you check in and see, okay, how much money do I have left in my budget? Can I afford to buy this? Can I not afford to buy this? Is this in my budget? Can I wait till next month? Whatever. We talk about those things. The second step is, if you have debt, you add up all your debt and then you create your debt repayment plan. And that is what's really hard for a lot of people, is to have that number facing them and saying, oh my God, how did it get to be this high?
Yeah.
But you have to do it. And we go through, like, I have a whole method where you pay your highest interest debt first, and it calculates how much of a payment you're going to make and how long it's going to take. So you have all your goals set out and you get on that track. And then we talk about saving for your emergency fund. So that's step 3. Step 4, we talk about finding value-based goals. So it's not just about, getting your money in, different pots and spreading it around and doing what you have to do. It's also finding what you really want to do with your money. Like, what's going to bring you joy? Is it going to be you going on a family vacation, or is it going to be buying yourself things, or is it going to be sending your kids to college? Like, whatever it is, you identify what means something to you, and that's where the values come in. Because if your values are misaligned, I mean, this is kind of the premise of the conversation, then things go awry. So you get really focused in on your why, what you want to save for, what you're working towards, and trust me, it's whatever it is, it's whatever makes you happy. And then we talk about what step am I on? I think maybe we're on the 5th one now.
4. Now we're on 5.
Yeah. Okay. So then we talk about insurance. So making sure that you have medical insurance, your dental insurance, life insurance, disability insurance. We plan for wills. Like, all that stuff is very financially based as well. And you need that in your financial plan. And then step 6 is talking about saving for your retirement, investing your money, understanding how much government support you would have versus how much you need to save for retirement of your own funds, like, making sure everything's covered so that and making your retirement plan so you can start saving immediately, and how much you're going to have when you retire. And deciding, what kind of retirement is that you want to build. Like, some people are fine with retiring and staying close to home and playing bridge and clubs or whatever. Other people have retirement dreams of traveling the world. You have to decide what it is that you're looking for and start working towards that goal. And then the final step we talk about, excuse me, it's about, if you've decided to buy a house and invest in a house in your process, to make sure that that house is going to be paid off in the end. Because so often people don't think about that. There's this thing right now where everybody's refinancing their house, you're treating your house like an ATM, stuff like that. So you have to bring that into the financial plan as well. So we cover basically everything that you can cover in finance. We talk about, taxes and how to take advantage of government programs and, save for taxes and the best place to park your money for short term versus long term. I mean, you name it, we talk about it. And most of that, all that stuff is covered in the online course, but then you bring your questions to the table and we have a talk at the sessions or in the Facebook group.
I imagine a lot of questions must come up about particulars.
You know what? There's a lot of questions, but there's way more emotion. The feelings of, I'm not feeling it today. I want to give up, or I'm so discouraged by the amount of debt that I still have to pay off. That's really the kind of conversations I see more so than the actual steps. So we are all here to support each other and say, hey, we all have bad days. Just stay focused. You've got this. Remember your why. I always try to get clients to pick their why. Like, for me, My why of staying out of debt is because I have this visualization of my husband's face when he was so disappointed in me.
Mm.
And for me, that works because I never want to see that face again. I love that man too much to disappoint him like that again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my why, is to make sure that I come through with my my side of the agreement, because we have our dreams, we're building a life together, and I'm gonna show up for that part of my agreement just like he does.
Yeah.
So
And that's
but
amazing that, I mean, I don't know you that well, but I think marriages have been destroyed over that, marriages of people that I
yes,
know have been destroyed over that. And so I just commend you guys for sticking by each other and working through it together.
yeah, I'm super grateful for him.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's grateful for me for the things I've done for him. So like, we have a good marriage, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it could have ended very badly. I'm well aware of that.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful.
And what do you say to a young person? Because I've had these conversations about how starting to save, that one piece about planning for retirement. Because I think sometimes young people think like they can do it next year or whatever.
Yeah.
But I know I want to call it time under tension because that's what I think about. But time to grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have actually two kids who 17 and 18 years old right now, and we've always talked about money with them since they were kids, like younger. As soon as they were receiving an allowance, it was always a part of the conversation. And I've got two very different money personalities. My son, who's 18, he puts all his money in the bank and he hates to spend it.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter, who's 17, gets sucked in with the marketing towards young girls, and she wants to buy the makeup and the hair stuff and the clothes, and she just spends. She's got this lifestyle. So I'm definitely challenged with teaching her about her money skills and stuff. And yeah, she's 17, she's still young, so I give her some leeway.
Yeah.
But I think the earlier you talk about it with them, even if they don't think or you don't think they're listening, they are listening. They're just telling you they're not listening.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll always understand the value of saving her money because we talk about it. So, and we don't just talk about like, okay, if you've got $10, put away $2 or whatever. We talk about, what kind of lifestyle do you want to have when you're older? How do you think you get to that point? Like, if you want to live like your parents are living, you're going to have to go to school, go to post-secondary school, get a decent job. You're not, because I mean, she's 17 and her idea is, I'll just go work at McDonald's and I'll
Mm-hmm.
be fine for the rest of my life, kind of thing. Not really understanding that that's not how it works.
Oh,
If you choose to work at McDonald's, that's fine, but you're going to be limited with a certain lifestyle. Your lifestyle is going to dictate, or your salary is going to dictate your lifestyle. So you make a choice of the kind of salary you want to earn. So everybody's faced with choices. So long story short is, I really would suggest talking to your kids about it right from the get-go. And if you're dealing with somebody who's, new to employment, they're graduated from post-secondary, they've got their job. I really feel for the young kids in the States who graduate with so much debt for
that,
school.
that's
The
crazy.
student loan debt is crazy for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can understand how much it would hurt to start paying that off right away because, finally you've got your freedom. It's like, woohoo, I'm making money, and you want to do what you want to do with your money, but you got to pay down those debts. And the worst thing you can do is just ignore them and not pay them, right?
Yeah.
So
That's interesting because most kids do graduate with some kind of debt. And I think on the one hand, it's a very good lesson because they have to take care of that
yeah,
right away and pay it down and be responsible. Our own daughter, our oldest daughter, when she went to graduate school, so we have 4 kids, long story short, and we were very fortunate that we started saving, literally the day they were born, and they got through undergrad. I think you call that post-secondary.
Oh,
school.
it's undergrad. It's the same. Yeah.
Undergrad. Yeah. So they got, all of our kids were able to get through undergrad debt free because we planned for that. And we're very, grateful and fortunate that we were able to do that. But we said to them, should you decide to go to grad school, you're going to have to figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's four of you, and this
Yep.
is what we could do. So our
Yep.
oldest daughter ended up moving to Korea for 2 years because she actually had a very lucrative position that really allowed her to pay down her student debt much, much quicker.
Oh,
And
nice.
she figured it out, and that's how it worked. But I think a lot of kids, it's hard. It's
It's
very hard
very
in the
hard.
US,
Yeah.
but they have to do. And the other thing is they see mom and dad living a certain lifestyle. And I always tell them, I go, listen, when we were your age, we did not live like we live now.
Yes. Yes. My 17-year-old doesn't understand that yet.
Yeah. I mean, if you could take a look back, and there's no way to look back. What are they going to look at a photo album?
Yeah.
But I explain to them sometimes about like things that we did, like we waited years, decades to do certain things.
Yeah.
And that's the big point to get across, I think, with the young ones is like, you have to earn the ability to do this, or you're going to end up in worse trouble,
Absolutely. And it teaches them responsibility too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of Canadian students graduate with debt too. I mean, we're not immune to it as well. It's just significantly higher to go to post-secondary or undergrad school or college or whatever you call it
Mm-hmm.
in the US than it is in Canada, but you still have to pay in Canada, and not all parents pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
And, if they do decide to go to graduate school, add on, thousands more dollars.
Yeah.
But the thing is, regardless of where you are in the world, if you're graduating with student debt, you got to get that paid off, and don't start living above your means, because that debt will never go away until you pay it. So that is always the first piece of advice that I give the young ones. And the second piece is, don't go getting yourself this beautiful condo, because no, you're not there yet. You should be starting off with like a moderate housing situation, whatever it is, whether you're renting a 2-bedroom apartment and sharing it with somebody or whatever. The point is, you have to live within your means, and you have to budget for those debt repayments, because you don't want those debts following you throughout your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will never go away, right? If they
Exactly.
if it's not addressed. So
I did go, I didn't go to school. I worked with a woman who I was really, really impressed with. She's about 15 years younger than me. And she was very financially savvy. And when she was going to school, she worked part-time, but she lived at home with her parents, and she would save her money. And she managed to save for a down payment for a condo while she was a student. And then she got her parents to co-sign her loan. She bought herself a condo, and she rented out her condo to friends who would pay her the rent. That's how she paid the mortgage.
mm-hmm.
And by the time she graduated and started working, she was living with 3 other people, so her boyfriend and 2 other people. And she ended up selling the condo because she married her boyfriend, and she must have had about $300,000 invested in that, like, of equity in that condo.
Wow.
Yeah. So then she could just take that money and put it towards their next house. But she was under 30 before when she sold her first condo. So she did really, really well. And she was very, very smart about it.
Yeah, really. So she really got the whole idea about delayed gratification.
She did, but looking at her, you wouldn't tell, because she didn't look like she was missing anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? If she didn't believe she was missing anything, then she wasn't.
Well, and that's it, right? Because everybody feels that they're missing out. It's that big thing right now is FOMO, and nobody wants to miss out, and everybody's paying for things on borrowed money and stuff. And it's just not worth it, because it adds up so quickly.
Yeah, I talk about this a lot. It's about stop doing what you think other people think is expected of you. Because first of all, they got their own problems. They can't even, they don't, you're not that important to them. Like I always say, like, our problems are not that important to someone else. They got their own problems. And if they're over there judging us, then who cares? It's none of our business. It's really their problem anyway.
Yeah.
So tell me, where can people find you?
You can go to my website at melissahoustoncpa.com, and on that website it has all my social media information.
Oh, perfect. So it's a one-stop shop.
It's a one-stop shop, and yeah, be happy to hear from anybody. You can email me directly if you have any questions about this conversation, or you just want to check in, see what is going on with my program, or what have you. I am available.
Thank you so much. This has been a very enlightening conversation, and I really appreciate your honesty with
Thank
us
you.
about your story and how you've come around, and pretty amazing. I'm going to put all this information, I'll put your website in the show notes so that people can contact you,
Perfect.
more.
And thank you again for having me on. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I really enjoyed talking about this. And I'm going to keep using that analogy of how financial investing and health investing are really like, they're parallels.
Oh, absolutely. They're
100%.
pillars of health.
They really are. So
Yeah,
listen, the one thing we don't want to do is have a lot of money and no health, or have no money and like outlive our money,
exactly.
It's
We
delicate.
want a balance.
Yeah. So, wow. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate your being on with us today.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Wow. What a heartfelt story. I mean, how brave was Melissa to actually come on, and she shares her story freely with everyone. To be an accounting professional and actually suffer from an overspending habit and recovering from it is just something that you don't hear about every day. And the thing I love most about it is that she has turned that experience around, and she's able to help others come through what she has come through. And not only that, it has turned out to be her life's passion. If you'd like more information on how you can contact Melissa, please check the show notes. And remember to subscribe and leave a review. And if this podcast spoke to you, please share it. Take a screenshot and share it with people on social media. I'm sure there are many people out there who are actually suffering in silence because they're suppressing something. And whether they're overeating or overspending, it's not that much different. One way or another, it really makes a difference to get help and come through it. And it is possible to come through it.